Today's episode of DRL is brought to you by Hella Cocktail Company. My guests don't just come to DRL for me. They also come for the cocktails. Luckily, my friends at Hella Cocktail Company have my back. These guys make amazing mixes, from Bloody Mary to Margarita to Moscow Mule. They also make cocktail bitters, my secret ingredient, and now yours too. It's easy to feel like the best bartender in town when every bottle comes with a simple recipe on it. Hella Cocktail Company, bold flavor, real ingredients, hospitality. Mixing it up since 2011. Shop the collection on Amazon Prime or use code DRL online at hellacocktail.co for free shipping. Hello, my lovely listeners. Welcome back to another episode of DRL, where we're talking everything dating, relationships, and love. I'm your host, Tennesha Wood. Guess where I am? I'm in Ghana. So you guys are going to love Accra. I was just taught how to say it correctly. Here's the thing about Accra. The men far outweigh the women. Everywhere I go, I see about 3 women and 32 men. So loving that so far. So one of the things I've been really curious about here is what it's like dating here and how it's different from New York and the US and everywhere else. So I have a guest with me tonight, Mildred, who is going to explain it all to us. Let's just get right into it. Are you dating anybody right now?
I'm seeing somebody. I'm talking to somebody.
So how did you meet this guy you're talking to?
Very interesting. I had actually met him like 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. You know, like a long time ago. And then there was that kind of like, oh, this person likes you, but there was so many other things going on at that time that he wasn't a priority.
You pushed him to the back burner. So how did you guys reconnect?
So I think few months ago, 2-3 months ago, we went for a wedding, a mutual friend's wedding. And then we met up again. It's like, oh, I know you. It's like, oh, yeah, I know you.
I tried to date you 5 years ago, remember?
So I was at this wedding and I lost some weight. So I was feeling very like...
You were feeling yourself?
Feeling myself. Rightfully so, because the diet was very hard. So yeah, I was really not looking his way at all. Because like I had recently come out of something, so I was not really...
You come out of a relationship?
So I wasn't really looking for like anything, you know. So I met him and there was the persistence, like, can I get your number, you know? But I was like, yeah.
Why were you sort of, apprehensive in the beginning?
In the beginning, to be honest, the same reason why I was 5 years ago.
So nothing had changed?
Yeah, nothing really
But what was
changed.
the reason?
To be honest, I don't know. I'm feeling that it was probably because I didn't see him. For me personally, it's like if I decide, because I can decide that, oh, okay, I like you now. I like something about you, so let's talk. Like, I'm interested in you. But there are some people who are like the most interesting people. They have everything to offer, but in my mind, I'm just not interested in them. So it's just really never...
So that probably comes... Do you think that comes from an initial attraction? Like you just didn't feel initial physical attraction, and so in your head it was just like, oh, that's a friend or associate, but not a romantic partnership.
Definitely.
Okay, got it.
So yeah, that's how I was feeling then at the party, because I was getting attention from everywhere else. So he was like...
He was on the back burner.
Yeah. So... the number, it was something nice to do. It's like, oh, I'm going to give it to you because, it's a wedding. And we're a bit like...
It's a wedding and I'm a nice person, so I'm going to give you my number, but I'm not actually interested. You exchanged the numbers, then what happened?
And then the next day, it was like, oh, let's go for lunch. I'm like, I have things to do. Like, I was really not interested. It's just like, I read something today about like, the busiest person is the person who's not interested in you.
Oh, 100%. Right? Like, do you ever notice, like, the second you like somebody, it's like, you know what? I'm free in 10 minutes. Yeah, let me just, get some things together. Exactly. Like, let me just call my boss, call into work. Let me just cancel all plans for the day. Let me just shave everything, get ready. I'm totally free. Exactly. Whereas, like, when you don't like somebody, it's like,
you know what?
I'm out of town again.
Real quick. And I'll call you back.
I'm out of town again. I don't even live here anymore.
So yeah, that was it. On the next day, I was like, I have some things to do. It's like, oh, let's go for lunch. I was like, no. So I really was not interested. Mm-hmm. And then I think what swayed me was a persistence. Mm-hmm. So there was the continuous like checking up, how are you doing? Da, da, da. Are you sure you still don't want to go on this, like, should we go for lunch or should we go for a dinner?
You know what's attractive about that?
What?
Because I think a lot of men, like particularly today, mm-hmm. they get very insulted when you reject them in any sort of way. And so when a man doesn't act all hurt and takes it very personally when you reject him, and he's still being very consistent and trying. He's not just like, oh, she said no. Like it shows that he has the personality of a man that's not going to give up on anything he wants, right? And so even somebody that you're not, men, this is for you. I hope you're listening. even if a woman is not initially attracted to you, like she looks at you and she's just like, you ain't my type. What's gonna make her attracted to you is if you are consistent and persistent, not annoying. I just want to be clear. I want to be clear. I don't want to give anybody bad advice. Not annoying, meaning like you don't text somebody 15 times in a day. You check on them. So if she's like, yeah, like not right now, like I'm cool, I don't really want to date, then you're just like once in a while like, hey, I remembered you saying that, this thing was going on at work. How's that going? Hey, I remembered you saying you like XYZ type of food. You should check out this restaurant. But not every day texting her like, you ready to go out yet? How's today? How's now? That's annoying. Add value. Show up and add value. When I say show up, I don't mean don't show up at nobody's house. I just mean show up in a way that's relevant and add value. Right. Anyway, go on.
So yeah, the persistence, and I finally decided on, I think that was like the third or fourth day after I gave the number out, and we went on a dinner date, and that was it, to be honest. To me, that was what, like, because the conversation was good.
Here in Ghana, mm-hmm. is there more of a pressure, do you think, for marriage than there is in the U.S. or in other parts of the world?
Well, I can't.
How old are you again, Mildred?
I'm 28.
Okay, 28.
Yes. I cannot speak for any other culture. Mm-hmm. I have come into contact with people, but like I can't speak to it. What I can tell you for a Ghanaian girl, there's a lot of pressure when it comes to marriage. There's like too much. There is like I think the easiest way to explain it is we are not given a lot of chances to explore that kind of aspect of life when we are younger. But then there's an expectation to figure it out by a certain age.
Which is generally what?
25. By 25, you're getting the side eye. Like,
it's time.
Yeah, because most of the times, the school finishing age for like, if you go to university, that's like 23, 24, you're done. Mm-hmm. So you must have worked for like 2 years. So people see that, oh, you're done with school, you're working.
What's up?
Why are you still here? Why hasn't the status changed? So yeah, we have people, I have friends who literally came out of uni and they were married like 2 months later, 3 months after. So
do a lot of people do arranged marriages here, or is it not like that?
I don't. Well, with the kind of people around me, my peers, mm-hmm. I don't think that's a very popular thing now.
Okay,
it's not. People are allowed to find who they want to be.
So, being that is still sort of pervasive in the culture, mm-hmm. and probably in your family. Mm-hmm. When you get to a certain point with a guy like this guy, you've been dating for 2 months now. Are you thinking in that way? Are you thinking, is this somebody I could potentially marry? Or are you just saying, I'm going to get to know him and see where things go? Like, where's your mind going now at 2 months?
So where my mind is going and where like the conversation we are having is like two different things.
Okay.
Like, in my mind, I'm a very, like, I think way ahead of where I am.
Okay, so you're a
So
planner.
I'm definitely like, okay, this guy has dreadlocks. Will my parents like that? So I think about those things. I think the thing is, I feel like with the stage that I am right now, I know what I want, and I'm looking for somebody to like fit into what I want.
I don't know, Mildred. I'm gonna be 35.
Right.
Very soon, and I'm gonna say something about thinking in that way. Thinking in the way of, here's my perfect mate, here's my box, and I just want somebody that fits into the box perfectly.
Right.
You're gonna probably pass up a lot of good people that way because you have a set idea in your mind, and if somebody doesn't meet that idea, you might just push them to the side. And that doesn't mean they're not a good person, but there are certain things that really, at the end of the day, just don't matter. Does the fact that somebody have locks really matter? Does that change who they are as a person?
Right.
Not really. And I look at it like this. Like, personally, I'm very, like, I have certain physical things that I'm like, I just don't like that. Like, I don't like tattoos. I don't like piercings. But here's the thing. If it's a thing that I could change, you could easily cut some locks off.
Right.
That's easy. If I don't like the way you dress, I will bring you to the store. We will pick out some new clothes. Right. There are just some things where there's no point in even considering them when you're really looking at a potential mate, because they're so easy to change.
I definitely agree that it's coming to a head for me. I'm realizing that like mindset is not the best. Mm-hmm. I'm really like, I'm having experiences in life that is like, you know, whether I like it or not, it's showing me that you need to change how you think about these kinds of things. So the thing is, I've been that way for the longest time. So it's taking like a conscious effort for me to like change the way I think, you know, but if I could get in my way, that was it. Like, I'll set my little box and I'll just find somebody to fit them. Like, that's the easiest way because that's what I'm used to. And that's
you're talking to the queen of former boxes. I used to love a box. Like, here's my box. Oh, you don't fit into this. You're a little big. You're a little small for the box. You're a little tall. You're a little short for the box. Like, I get it. Mm-hmm. Trust me when I say I get it. Until I met somebody that was outside of my box, and I was like, well, damn, you don't really fit in my box, but you're kind of it.
So I am thinking that way. I don't think the situation of like I wouldn't call it a relationship, but whatever situation it is, I don't think it's nearing the marriage thing at all.
Does he feel those sort of same family pressures, or is it the same for the males?
No, it's not as strict when it comes to men. Men have a lot of room, a lot of wiggle room to like, you know, do what they want and which I think it's like, it's kind of unfair, but it's a natural thing. There's like the biological thing with men that men don't normally have. So I get it's unfair, but I get it.
But I do just want to say, though, and people don't know this, a lot of people don't think about this, but older men, their sperm tends to produce more birth defects. So a man has a lesser chance of producing children with birth defects if he's younger. And the older you get, the more that their sperm can produce children with birth defects. That's just a natural part of it.
I do not know.
So,
I thought it was a woman
so women shouldn't have children old. Men shouldn't have children old either. So there's a risk on both sides. So it's not just, you know, if you're a 60-year-old man, your sperm's not popping the way it did when you were 20, and it's just the quality of it isn't as great.
I didn't know this. I thought it was like
a man's sperm is not the same when he is 20 as when he is 60. The quality decreases.
Interesting.
So men need to feel the pressure too. You can still have children at 60 as a man, but it doesn't mean you should.
Right.
But anyway, go on.
But yeah, so I'm guessing that's the men don't feel as much pressure.
Right.
They have different kinds of pressure, like financial, trying to like, you know, figure themselves out financially, which I feel the Ghanaian women don't have, like, the society does not enforce it on you, but if you are like a modern person, that should be like, that's your goal. It's a personal thing, but the society doesn't expect you. The society, like, get married and your husband will take care of you.
Is that actually true? So now, if you were to get married today, more than likely, would your husband be taking care of you, be the one working and completely providing for the family?
No.
So that's actually not, it's a myth.
That's not what the situation is now, but this is what the society still thinks. And if I talk about society, the older people hold more. I wouldn't say the younger people are more here, but the older people hold more control over how we think and over how things.
But not how they actually are.
No.
So they're thinking, oh, okay, so it's still like it was way back when. And the women take care of everything in the house. The men work. So all you need to do right now is get married and don't worry about the rest. But in actuality, a man probably now
isn't want to work as hard and take care of you when you're staying at home. No.
So they don't necessarily have the ability to take care of everything. No. So you can't be like, oh, great, I'm married. Now let me just quit my job and continue on with life. It's like, no, we both got to pay this rent.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah, so it's changing. The older people still are set in their ways. Like, I always talk about the people who I know, which are my grandparents. And then they had that situation where my grandmom was in the house. She was a university graduate and everything, but after she got married, her husband was like, I don't want you to go to work, like, you need to take care of the house. And so she had to quit her job and, like, cater for the house, and she did that for like 40 plus years. And it was fine. But now I talk to guys who I'm dating or not, or just friends, and there's an expression of why should I be the only person providing? Like, we all went to school, we all have the degrees, and why we should supplement each other. So
but do they also believe then, the men, since they now are in this new age thinking of we should both work because we both are educated, etc., do they also believe, well, a lot of the child rearing is also my responsibility too?
No.
Oh, hell no. No. I'm sorry, but I am more than happy to work. I am more than happy to provide and take care of this home and do everything. But if I'm doing everything, you're doing everything too. So when this baby is crying, you could take him too. No. Okay? Like, this isn't you know what I'm saying? Either this is my job and this is your job, and I'm fine with that. Or everything is all of our jobs, and I'm also fine with that. But I'm not going to be on some like, well, I go to work and then I come home, cook, clean, and take care of the kids. No, because that means I have 5 jobs and you have 1.
Exactly. And
that shit is not fair.
I'm not going to take it away from all the other guys who do it, who help around. But the majority of men here have that mindset of like, okay, you are going to work, but I'm pretty sure I'm still making more money than you. So when I come
that's not
home,
your fault. That's just society. Because I don't know about here, but in America, women make 70 cents on the dollar still.
Yeah. So when I come home, there still has to be food on the table for me, and the kids are good, and like I can go out on a Friday night, but if you want to go out, who are you going to leave the kids with? That kind of situation is still, it's here. It's unfair. So you go out, I mean, La and I have been out a couple of times, and you see these old ass married men out and about, like popping and locking.
Having a good old time.
And their wives are home with their kids.
Nope, we're going out too. You better get a sitter. Like, I'm not in the house with these kids.
Yes.
If I worked all day, why don't I deserve a break on Friday night?
Exactly. So it's very unfair when it comes to that, because the men are coming to this age of like, oh, women can do it as well, bring money, like contribute to the house. But when it comes to contribution as to like responsibilities, let's share the household responsibilities, no, they still feel like they still need to be catered to.
Now, how does a modern 20-something, 30-something justify that? Like you were saying, your grandmother's day, her husband said, quit your job and now you're taking care of the kids. Okay, it actually makes sense to me. That's fine. But now how does a 30-year-old man, how does he justify that? To say, okay, we're both working, but you also do all the work at home.
You see this?
Like, what's the justification?
It's a double standard.
No, I get the standard, but how does he, when he's explaining this, how does he come to the fact that that's okay? How does he say, well, this is why it makes sense? Why does it make sense to him in any way?
Maybe this comment that I'm going to make is going to trivialize it, but a guy will make a comment like, oh, I came to marry you. So the act of marrying is the man coming. I don't know if you understand that, like coming with stuff to your father's house. And then they make it
like a dowry?
Like a dowry.
So is that still a thing?
Oh yeah, it's a thing.
So right now, if you were to get married, what would have to happen from the guy to your father? Like, what would he have to do?
I mean, it's kind of symbolic, to be honest. It's not like you still got to do it, but it's like it's a tradition, sort of. So,
but how much are we talking?
Well, it depends on how much your dad is asking for.
So your dad would have to ask for a certain amount.
They come to express their intent. Your dad gives him a list of things to bring along when they're coming to get married to you. So it's kind of like.
So he's like, on the wedding day.
On the wedding day, bring these things.
And what's an example of some of the things?
Money.
And how, like, what's a ballpark?
It depends, to be honest. It depends on, I mean, I'm talking about thousands. You know, it's
okay, like, in US dollars, are we talking 10,000?
Oh, no. I don't, in US dollars, I'm thinking like, let's say like, when it comes to the hard cash, let's say like $2,000.
That's not enough for you not to have responsibilities in this house. So that's if you brought my daddy $500,000, then I'm like, okay, I guess I gotta work some of that off. But you can't bring $2,000 and expect me to just do everything.
So listen, it's a I don't know how to explain it, but it's a symbolic thing. It's like, oh, they are bringing money to your mom, bringing money to your dad, to your
brother. So they what are other things that they might bring? They bring money. Clothes.
Like cloth.
Oh, cloth.
Not clothes, cloth. And
like fabric? Is that
fabric? Yeah, fabric.
Okay.
Fabric, kente, those kind of things, and and drinks.
Okay.
Drinks.
That's fair.
Schnapps. So I'm just saying that it's just a symbolic thing. I'm not saying that the $2,000 is the worth of the woman. It's kind of like, oh, I'm trying to like buy it's a symbolic thing. So men, I think there's an underlying thing where guys think marrying you is kind of like a favor. Like I'm doing you, I'm elevating you in society. Basically, because women have this thing, in this society that we are in, it's kind of like, oh, you can be a woman, well achieved, like you have so many things going for you, and then you're not married, but people see that you're lacking.
Like you're nothing. It's that's the same everywhere.
It's everywhere, right? So it's that kind of same thing. Like the guy thinks like I elevated you by doing this.
But in fact, most of the time, is that the case? Like, most of the time when a man here is marrying a woman, is it, oh, she didn't really have much. She kind of came from nothing, and then I came along and upgraded her? Or most of the time, is it, well, we were both educated, and I met her at university, and now we're, you know what I mean?
I think it's the latter. Like, it's not like, no. There are so many men who are coming into marriage with not as much. So it's not like it's every guy that's coming to like, coming to
upgrade you.
No, it's not like that.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that here, more times than not, do you think women marry down, so to speak, and I use that in quotes, as how, and when I say down, I meaning a person who is maybe less educated or has less money. Not that means anything in the value of who you are, but but just generally speaking, that's how people mean it when they talk about marriage and marrying on the same plane. So do you think that here a lot of men marry down or a lot of women marry down, or do people sort of marry within their class?
I feel like it's all over the place.
If you were to marry a man that didn't go to university, would that be a shocking thing, or would it just be like, oh, okay, like she's just marrying somebody she loves? Or is it seen in any type of way?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like if this was pertaining to me, it would be like, why? Why would you? Because that's just an example. There's this guy. He's called. He's a musician. He's called Stoneboy.
I know Stoneboy.
Okay.
Hey, you know what? Let me tell you this. Since I've been here in Ghana, I've been up on my music. I went to a Shatta Wale concert.
Yes.
And I've since learned about Stoneboy.
Okay. So yeah, Stoneboy married a doctor. And she was really popular because she finished top of her class. Like she was like doing
so she was on her game.
And, yeah, and then she is like, she comes from like a rich family, you know, that kind of like, so people were like, why? Because
Stoneboy appears to be doing pretty damn well for himself.
But the thing is, he's good now, but his background, he didn't go to school as much as she did.
He was on the come up. But he wasn't as established as she was.
I wouldn't even consider him a come up because he was, by that time, they got married last year. By that time, he was Stoneboy.
Right.
You know, but still, his background spoke something to, like, in comparison to her, where her family is set, like, she's like old money.
Got it.
Like, right? And
so even though he was famous,
it still didn't,
because he didn't necessarily come from the pedigree or the class that she did. Even though he's probably making more money at this point, right? People were saying she married down.
Exactly. People, that was like, why? What is, like, you know? So yeah, I can't say there's a clear cut, but there are definitely like instances where you hear this one marries this person, like,
Interesting.
So yeah.
So, in your mind, would you ever, if you fell in love with somebody that, say, didn't go to university or wasn't necessarily in a career path that you are, would you go ahead with it? Is that somebody you would consider being with or even possibly marrying? You paused too long, must have known.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know. I feel like for me to even get past it, if I get past it enough to fall in love, then I'm already in there. Like there's nothing I can do about it. I can't control it. But for me to get to that point, it was going to take like a lot for me to get to that point where I can push aside all those things.
But you've already pushed aside dreads. You're making progress.
I personally don't mind it. I just think about, like, what is my family going to think? Personally, I don't mind this. It doesn't bother me. Like, if you have tattoos, if you have piercings, I don't care.
Is that a big consideration, though, for you, though, when you're dating, is what is my family going to think about this?
Definitely.
So, are you going to bring him to meet the family?
We haven't gotten there at all.
What have you guys talked about in terms of next steps, or have you?
We haven't.
So, it's really just been getting to know each other, having fun.
Yeah.
And there's been no,
like, deep, like, conversation.
It's been 2 months?
Yeah, it's been 2 months. It's kind of crazy how it started fast and then it slowed down.
Are you seeing other people?
No, I wouldn't say I'm seeing, no. I'm not seeing.
What was the hesitation? You were like, no I wouldn't say.
The thing is, like, okay, right now I'm in a situation, but if I meet somebody and the person's like, can you give me your number? I'm going to give out the number.
Got it. But you're not actually...
But I'm not actually, like, encouraging, like, oh, do you want to go on a date with me? Or, like, I'm not doing
You don't sound... You like this guy, but you don't like him. Like, you don't sound too...
I'm very... If you spoke to me, like, a month ago, I would have been more into it.
So you're over it?
I'm not over it. I feel like I like people as much as they like me. and I put in as much effort as I see it being put in. So right now I feel like it's slowed down on his part, so I'm slowing down for me. I don't know if you understand what
I get what you're saying. My mom always said you should marry a man that loves you more than you love him.
Well, I guess I should think about that.
She's always said that in the back of my mind. I've always thought that. Like, so if there's ever been a guy I'm dating, I'm like, I feel like I like him more. I almost stop myself. Like, exactly. I almost say, like, you know what? I shouldn't like you as much as you, because you don't like me that much. So I know what you're saying. So I slow it down. Yeah. Or I just stop it altogether, and somehow I could talk myself out of liking somebody. Because I'm like, oh, you don't like me on the level that you should, because my mom said you should like me more. And so even when I was little, like maybe junior high school, I remember thinking things like that, like, he doesn't like me as much, so I don't like him anymore. Like, because he should like me more than I like him. Yeah. And so then, because this is what I remember. So when I was in high school, there was this guy named Andrew. Mm-hmm. Andrew just loved me, right? And he came over to my house, and like my parents were pretty strict. And so there wasn't like a lot of guys allowed over at my house and things like that. But I remember my mom would let Andrew come over. And he was just the sweetest. Like, he would, like, if I missed a day of school, he would bring me the notes from class. Mm-hmm. At Christmas, he would come over and bring my little brother gifts. And my mom was like, Andrew, like, loves you. He loves you so much. And I was like, I don't really like him like that. She was like, and that's when she told me, she said, you want a man like that who just adores you, and you don't want to ever like a man more than he likes you.
Yeah. So
Here's the thing,
like, if you asked me a month ago, I would have been like, going off. So, but right now I realize there has been like a slowdown in like the progression of things. So I am also like, I don't know if it's just like protecting myself, or like I'm just.
No, I think you're right. I think that's a protective mechanism.
So that's the thing that I'm doing. I don't know how it's going to be in 2 months from now, if he's going to get over whatever it is that he's going through.
So if you feel like right now there's not a strong, pull on his side, and he's pulled back, mm-hmm. So you've done the same, why really even continue on at this point?
I feel like I have, this is a personal thing. So I feel like I've done this is how I behave all the time. When I like somebody and I feel like the person is like, then I'm also like, Mm-hmm. But I feel like I've done it so many times, and I haven't gotten any good results out of it. I haven't gotten any like sustainable relationship, or like, I haven't gotten any experience of like just being through the trenches.
So normally I would just cut it off. So I'm gonna let this ride and see how it goes.
So it's like an experiment. I'm willing to like do and see.
So have you thought about asking him, hey, I've noticed that in the first month that we were talking that you were very interested and very into me, and I've noticed that you've pulled back a little bit. Have you thought about even having this conversation with him?
I've actually thought through the conversation.
Okay.
So what I was saying, what he was saying.
So what would you say in the conversation?
So yeah, basically the same thing that you said. Like, what is going on?
Right.
So it's like, what is going on? That's the question I want to ask. Why is it that it seems like you were way more like into it than you are now? What is going on? But I don't want to do that, because I'm kind of like in a space where I want to know, but I don't really want to know.
Why don't you want to know?
I don't want to know because I think it will force either me or him to have to make a decision. Like,
and what's wrong with that? What's wrong with not wasting your time?
I don't think there's enough time has gone by.
It's been 2 months.
Wasting time.
Yes and no. Okay. I think that you're wasting time because anything that you do in your life, whether that be professionally or personally or for fun or with friends, if it's not bringing you forward into the next place that you want to be, it's probably holding you back. Right. So this isn't me saying, oh, Mildred, you haven't talked to him about marriage yet, and what if he doesn't want to get married, and this is a waste of your time? Right. That's not what I mean. But I mean, if you're not benefiting, if you don't feel like this is a person that's helping me grow in ways that I think are important, so maybe that's emotionally or mentally or just learning new things, if he's not forwarding me in those sorts of ways, it's probably a waste of my time. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not suggesting that you go to him and say, so, I'm 28 now and, marriage is in my future and I'd really like to know where you stand. That's absolutely not what I think you should do. But I do think that you should ask yourself, number one, is this a situation that I feel enriched by? Do I feel like it's forwarding to me? Do I feel like I'm learning something from him or from this situation? And what am I getting out of it? Right. And if you can't answer those questions, or if the answer is no, then you are wasting your time. And so that's why I think you should have the conversation, because I do think, now in my older age, I do think that you should give people the benefit of the doubt. Because back in the day, I might have said, oh, well, he's just acting funny, and then I might have just cut it off. But maybe he's thinking something that he's not expressing, and you don't know that, and you don't want to make decisions based on factors that you're unaware of. Right. And so I do think that you should have a conversation in which you say, hey, like a couple months ago, things were really hot and heavy, and I felt like we, were getting to know each other and things were really fun, and I feel like you've pulled back. Is there a specific reason for that? And, if he delivers a stupid reason, then you know where to go from there. But, he could tell you something that you have no idea. He could say, things have been really stressful with my family. My mother this is going on with and you may not know this, but if you dig a little deeper, you might find it out. But he might just be on some bullshit, and you'll find that out too. But in that case, then you're not keeping space for him in any way. And though, yes, you are dating other people, I do believe everybody in our life takes up some sort of space, whether we recognize it or not. So I think you should just, ask him casually. Nothing like, we don't need to have a deep talk. I need to meet at dinner at 7 p.m. sharp. We need to talk. It doesn't have to be all that. It could be a very casual conversation.
Yeah. I do think about it. I do think like I need to talk about it or ask it, but I also feel like I need to sort things out with myself first.
What do you need to sort out with yourself?
The point that I made to you about the books that I have. Yep. So I need to deal with that. It's like I have expectations as to from a month talking to you, you should be behaving like this, and going forward, you should be behaving like that. So when people don't behave like I expect them to, then I start to think for them, why is this why? And the why is answered by me as well. So it's kind of to me, it's kind of why do I have so many expectations of these? Their actions and inactions are
because that's 28 years of conditioning. That's 28 years of going through life. Probably part of that with your parents sending you a certain message, your family, you being around a certain group of friends. And everybody is sending you these messages, whether it be consciously or subconsciously. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these messages aren't necessarily bad, but what you have to do is sift through which of these are relevant for me. Is this what I want, or is this just what I've been told that I wanted?
Right.
For a lot of, what I'm doing at this point in life is I'm really reevaluating the things that I've been told versus the things that I actually want. Because I think for a very long time, I got them confused. So there are these things that I was told growing up by my parents or just society in general, or the place that I grew up in, the time that I grew up in. And it was almost like I was reading a script, right? So it's I want a man that does this. I want a man that has this. And yes, some of those things were absolutely true. I did want some of those things, and I did, want a man that did some of those things. But the more I get to know myself, the more I've said, wait, I don't think I wanted that. I think I received a message at some point saying that that's what I should want. So then I thought I did. But like the more time that goes by and the more that I really get to know myself, the more I realize the things that I was told I should want and the things that I actually want. Yeah. And so I think that's really what you're saying is, what do you actually want? What are your expectations? Because there's nothing wrong with expectations. There's absolutely nothing wrong if you say, I want a man that has X, Y, and Z. There's nothing wrong with that, particularly if you have those things yourself. But do you are those things really important to you, or were you just told they were important things? Exactly. And that's what I think you're trying to delineate. But in the meantime, it doesn't mean you have to waste your time on things that don't bring you value or joy.
Right. I get that. So that's where I am right now. Trying to like deal with myself before I go to him, trying to be I want to come from like a good place, that it doesn't seem like I am like, if truly that's how he is and he's just like a relaxed person, and then like in the beginning he was putting his best foot forward, and now maybe like he felt like, oh, I've gotten this girl in the space that I want her to be, so I can show her who I really am. And I don't want to go to him making him feel like who he really is not good enough.
But what is the harm, I guess, in saying, hey, when we were first, talking, you seemed more excited, or, I felt like there was more of a connection, or whatever you feel. But now I feel like that's different. Like, that's not a judgment. That's just how I feel. Like, if you said to me, hey, Tennesha, I've noticed that you were more chippery when I walked in the door, and now you seem a little bit subdued. Like, I might say to you, well, I'm hot because we turned the air off because we needed to record. Right. But it doesn't say anything about me. Like, it doesn't change anything about who I am or say anything bad. It's really just, I'm not going to call it a fact because it's your feeling, but
like a realization.
Yeah, it's just something you notice. And I think it's worth a conversation. And I think most mature men wouldn't take that in a bad way, or take that personally, or take that as something that they're doing wrong. Because again, what you notice might not be how he perceives it.
True.
And that opens the door for a conversation to say, well, no, how you notice it is not how I've been meaning for it to come across. So here's what I've actually been meaning. And, I didn't realize it was coming across that way to you. So I think it's worth a conversation.
Yeah.
I just ranted, but it's worth a conversation.
Yeah, I really do think we should have that conversation. I think I've been building up to it, but what held me back was like I didn't want to feel like I'm coming from a place where I'm attacking.
That's not an attack. Like, yeah. That's not an attack. It's a conversation. It's just a conversation. And if a grown-ass man can't handle a conversation, if you were with him and married to him, or wherever else you choose to go, there will be a lot harder conversations than this. So if you can't handle this little conversation, good luck. You know what I'm saying? Like, if that hurts his pride to have this conversation, like, bye, Felicia. I get that. Well, keep us posted on this conversation. I really am going to call you in a week. Like, did you have this conversation yet? And I'd like it to be done.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely going to have a conversation.
Good.
Let's see how it goes.
Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight, Mildred, and for sharing a little bit about your life and about life here in Accra. And I hope things go good for you. I really do.
I hope so too.
Yes.
Again, I was having a conversation with my auntie just this past weekend. I was talking about like how I might be fine. Like in 5 years, it might be fine, but it's just the not knowing where.
Not knowing what?
Not knowing what will be in this 5 years, because my expectations.
You don't know what anything will be.
Exactly.
Do you know what anything will be tomorrow?
That's what gives me so much anxiety in life, because it's kind of like...
Girl, but you don't know what will happen tomorrow. You don't know what will happen in a day, much less 5 years.
5 years, right.
So that's really out of all our control.
True. I guess that's what makes life so...
Yeah, you can't... There's only so much you can plan for.
True.
Yeah. True. A month ago, I didn't know I was coming to Ghana. Here I am.
Here you are.
How could I have planned for that? I didn't know I would meet you a month ago. Here I am.
Like even 2 days ago. Oh
right, exactly. Here I am. That's the note of the night. You know what? You can only plan so much. Yes. Well, thank you for joining me tonight on DRL.
Thank you.
Cheers. And thank you guys so much for listening and tuning in. I'm here in Accra. I just wanted to say that again. Please let me know what you think of tonight's show. You could reach me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Tennesha Wood. And until next time, wish me love.
Hello again, my lovely listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of DRL. If you like the show, be sure to go on iTunes and leave a rating and also write a review. And don't forget to share with your friends and tell them all about DRL. Thank you so much for supporting.